Good morning. My name is Jesse Rabinowitz, and I'm the Campaign and Communications Director at the National Homelessness Law Center. We are here today outside of the China Hat Road at the Deschutes National Forest outside of Bend, Oregon. Last night at 3:30 a.m., under the cover of darkness, the Trump administration closed what we believe to be the largest homeless encampment on federal land by forcing people to leave under the threat of 1 year in jail or $5,000 in fine, or both. Donald Trump began his 101st day in office by tearing homeless Americans away from their belongings and communities and making homelessness worse, instead of addressing the cause of homelessness and the most significant economic issue facing most Americans, which is the lack of affordable housing. This helps no one. I've spent the past few days talking with people living in the forest, and three themes have been repeated over and over again. 1, people want and need housing, not handcuffs. 2, people want to be treated as human beings. 3, nobody knows where they are going to go after they leave the forest. The ongoing eviction in Deschutes reflects both America's growing homelessness crisis, which is caused largely by the lack of housing that people can afford, and a growing focus on displacing, but not helping, folks who have no choice but to sleep outside. Cities, states, and the federal government are evicting homeless encampments daily, displacing communities and trashing possessions, eroding trust, and making homelessness worse. This has increased since last year's Grants Pass ruling, which shamefully said that cities can arrest and jail people for sleeping outside. Since last year's ruling, over 160 cities have passed laws making it illegal to be homeless. Instead of handcuffs, governments need to focus on housing and help. I'm going to turn the mic over to our amazing lineup of speakers, and then we will take questions. First, we'll hear from Chuck, who is an amazing volunteer who has been working on this case for a long time. Chuck.
My name is Chuck Hemingway. I'm on the staff as a volunteer with Homeworn Network, which is an incredible volunteer organization. And we were here until very late last night watching and helping people get relocated from the China Hat area. China Hat has been the home for up to 200 people of our citizens and neighbors until recently, with an estimated of up to 90 discrete encampments spread throughout the almost 900 acres that where the main number of these people experiencing homelessness live. That came to an end last night. This was their home. The people who lived there were a microcosm of society with a couple of different aspects. There were quite a number of working people, and there were a large number of disabled people and elderly. The numbers grew because of the high cost of living in Bend. Sure, there were some bad actors who gave a bad name to the rest of the community, and that was disappointing. We understand the need for fire mitigation, but we were disappointed that there wasn't an organized effort by the Forest Service that would have permitted an orderly relocation of people over time, assisted by service providers, instead of what resulted in a mad mass exodus yesterday and late last night up until 3:30 in the morning. We hope that this will be a beacon call for all of Central Oregon, that we have a large population of unhoused, mostly due to circumstances not of their fault or causing, with no place to go. And we need to provide a legally recognized location for people faced with experiencing homelessness where they can live with dignity and live in a safe and secure environment. And we hope that this might be the start of an effort throughout Central Oregon to bring that to pass within the next several years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Next, we'll hear from Mandy, who has been living out here for quite some time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mandy, like you said. Like many here, my home was within the Cabin Butte Vegetation Management Project boundary. While I was asked to speak about the impact of the recent closure, While I was asked to speak about the impact of the recent closure notice, I feel it is crucial to know.
Sorry. You need to speak closer.
Sorry. Okay, is that better? Everybody hear me okay? Okay. While I was asked to speak about the impact of the recent closure notice, I feel it's crucial to share the path that led me here today. I've been an Oregonian my entire life, from Grants Pass to near Portland and finally settling in Bend in '99. After leaving in 2007, I returned in 2018 seeking safety after an ex of mine, our relationship had gone from normal to very abusive. Despite a no contact order, he continuously tried to find me after I left. I tried to reach out to local law enforcement for help, but they dismissed my pleas, stating it wasn't their problem because the court case that held the no contact order was out of a different county. I felt like there was no other option, so I went to the woods. During one encounter, a Forest Service agent told me, I strongly suggest you guys be out of here well before the May 1st deadline, because the closer it gets, the worse it's going to get for you out here. I'm not the only one that went through that and the harassment and all that. That's a mild story from things I've heard from the other campers. It's sad that that's what it's come to. People forget that we're human. It's really easy for them to forget because the ones that have given us a bad name. We're not all out here because we're drug dealers or crooks or anything like that. A lot of us are out here just because we had one bad day. We made wrong choices, not bad choices. Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Graham Pruse from the National Vehicle Residency Collective.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Great. Good morning. My name is Dr. Graham Pruse. I'm the Executive Director of the National Vehicle Residency Collective. We work to protect the rights and property of people living in vehicles across the United States, in open access areas, in urban communities and suburban communities across the country. Today, we stand beside the hundreds of our neighbors who cannot be here, families, veterans, and workers who have been ordered out of the dispersed sites in the Deschutes National Forest. Their crime is poverty, solved the only way that they can, by turning to a minivan, an RV, a pickup with a camper shell, into the safest home that they can afford. They were displaced from housing into vehicles. They were displaced from Bend into this forest land. And now they're being displaced back into the streets of Bend and into open access areas throughout this community. Bend's 2024 point-in-time count tells this story. Bend recorded 959 people experiencing homelessness. 55%, roughly 530 men, women, and children were completely unsheltered. That's a 5% decline from the last year, and we should acknowledge that progress. But the city and partners and the city of partners have added 236 new shelter beds and began important work on affordable and middle-income housing. However, even if every one of those beds were open tonight, that still leads fall of more than 300 300 less beds needed for the people who are sleeping outside. And none of those beds accommodate an entire vehicle household. The retired couple whose RV is their last asset, the single parent and struggling families who need a van to keep their working deliveries, or the wildfire survivors still paying the bank on a burned-out mortgage. Forced from the forest, these residents have nowhere lawful to park inside city limits. Camping bans close the streets, neighborhood associations block commercial lots, and county land use rules prohibit long-term stays. In effect, we are telling people, leave federal land, but don't come to town. Abandon your vehicle, but don't sleep on the sidewalk. That circular order turns human beings into trespassers everywhere they go. Without a legal space to exist, this community is rendered illegal for whatever they do. Yet, their vehicles are private property. Often their single largest investment, and they are using that property to meet their basic human needs while Bend's housing market catches up. Evicting them will without offering a realistic alternative only drives them deeper into debt and desperation, and it pushes the cost onto law enforcement, hospitals, and the forest itself, which must now manage constant churn instead of stable, self-regulated camps. We can do better. First, we should implement a moratorium on vehicle evictions until safe parking capacity equals the demonstrated need. Second, we need to designate public lots with sanitation, trash service, and outreach as interim shelter space for vehicles that already meet Oregon Structural Fire Code. And third, we need to accelerate the conversion of underused parcels into mixed income villages with dedicated spots for RVs and tiny homes on wheels. Finally, we need to tie every shelter bed expansion to an equal investment in long-term, deeply affordable housing and accessible housing, so that today's emergency does not become tomorrow's permanent crisis. Displacing vehicle residents from Deschutes simply shifts the burden from one jurisdiction to another. It does not solve the shortage of roofs, beds, or parking stalls. This community of vehicle residents are using their private property to solve a housing crisis. Let us honor the resilience of these households by offering spaces, services, and the dignity of staying in the only homes they own until we can build the homes that they deserve. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Jessica, Director of Home More Network.
Hi, my name is Jessica Gamble. I'm the Executive Director, and founder of Home More Network, an independent nonprofit in Bend, Oregon. I'm a former face of a resident that lived here at China Hat. I'll go into a little bit more information about my background, and then we'll talk about today. So I was unhoused for 2.5 years in Bend, Oregon. Part of that was following my divorce, initially being here at China Hat for 3 months in the summer of 2019. Again, another 2 years during the pandemic after I lost my house because of rent increases. So I'd just like to say that just to humanize homelessness. I don't do drugs. I have no criminal background. I have a college education. I still ended up here. Due to unfortunate events and circumstances that were out of my control, some of which were because of choices that I made, but others just due to circumstances. Literally anybody can become homeless. As we've seen with the Los Angeles fires, even millionaires become homeless, and I think everybody needs to take a moment and just dwell on what the actual experience is like. If you imagine any time that you have a bad day and you're getting through that stress in that moment, being in survival mode, not being able to access your logical prefrontal cortex, that's how people experiencing homelessness operate every single day. You're not really able to plan for future planning when you're in that state. Somatically, you're not able to get through your basic needs. That's why we're out here providing basic needs. So that's the background. I want to talk about mental health a little bit here. There's a term that I learned during therapy while unhoused called catastrophizing. For anybody that doesn't know what catastrophizing is, it's when you think about the worst case scenario, preparing yourself, your body, and your mind for what is to come. Whether that happens or not, usually it doesn't happen. Whatever the worst case scenario usually doesn't happen. Unfortunately, here today, it has happened, and worse. This is something that nobody could have fully prepared for. The information was not clear across the board for anybody in this entire process when they were doing the environmental assessments, and the people that were privy to that information, the process of the so-called planning with service providers that never happened, the information available for the people that are living here. There was nothing transparent about this process whatsoever. So now accountability. Another term that we're all supposed to embody, something especially for leaders in our community. And it's something that's asked of homeless individuals every single day that they rebuild their lives, is taking accountability for their actions, for their choices, for their circumstances, even when they can't. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to step on anyone's toes. I just ask that the Forest Service and each individual, whether it's somebody living here or a service provider, or if you're witnessing this, take accountability. Open your hearts and minds to the possibility that people that are unhoused are suffering. We don't need to add to that. Thank you. So thank you for the reminder here, Jesse. Having gotten through yesterday, we had hundreds of phone calls from frantic people all through the day. We had some glimmer of hope that there was a mention of a possibility of people being able to come back up to 90 days following this closure by appointment to be able to retrieve their belongings. I have no idea if that's accurate information or not. It's something that we were told by other folks that were out here. I'm hoping that may be the case, is some leniency and giving people grace and being able to get out and gather what's left of their lives and take that with them. I say that mostly because of pets. I had pets when I was out here. A lot of folks have pets as emotional support animals.
Deserves a home.
Thank you. We know last night at 3:17 a.m. this road was open for a logging truck. The gate was closed about 20 minutes after, and we know that the Trump administration has opened up this forest land to logging. So it's not that, and throughout the day we've seen a steady stream of logging trucks being allowed to enter freely into the forest. So we know it's not that nobody can be in the forest. It's just that certain people can't be in the forest, and we feel that's important to name. We're going to now turn it over to questions. Do folks have questions for folks?
Does anyone have a sense of how many campers are still inside and if anyone's outside?
40 to 60, no one cited.
We're not aware of anyone cited, but between 40 to 60 people are still inside.
I was interested in some of the texts you were getting. What are some of the things you're hearing from people who are still inside?
Many of the folks are not sure what to do. They're not sure if they're supposed to stay with their belongings, if they're supposed to stay put, because their understanding is that as soon as they leave, they're not allowed back in. It takes a lot of effort to acquire rigs when you're unhoused, when you're trying to save up to get into housing or do anything else. And so these folks are hesitant to leave.
Thank you.
So tell me something, what are people supposed to do now? Okay, I'm homeless. I'm not here. But I park at the Walmart parking lot. Now I'm waiting for someone to bang on my window telling me to move. Or I'm waiting on somebody to come bang on my window looking for dope. I've been sober over 15 years, and even though I live in my van for weeks, it's a blessing every day that I wake up this way, but I still help people. I volunteer at the shelter, with the shelter, donate money. I do what I can. I go down with my good friend Olivia down there as the kitchen. And I spend my time down there, but here it is now, this. The last administration was such a disgrace, with billions and billions and billions of dollars being pissed away, that could have housed everybody, I think. It's not necessarily Trump's fault or anybody else, it should be that. I'm not a Trump person either. Things could have been done because the government's so corrupt. But my question is this, and I like this man, I met this man a few minutes ago. I'm in my van, but it humbles me every time I'm down at that homeless shelter, what goes on there. It makes me sick, especially when there's young ladies out on the street. Go down to the shelter, then with the kitchen. Humble yourself down there, go volunteer, and see what it's really like. But I don't know what to do right now. And I know you have an answer, or maybe you don't. But I'm stuck in my van. I know people worse off than me. I have a quarter tank of gas. I'm on Social Security, and that doesn't hit for a few more days. I'm stuck. But I'm waiting for someone to beat on that window, a Walmart employee telling me to move at 11 o'clock when they come. So
Yeah. Well, you're,
that's real. I'm in it.
and you're not
Like
alone.
anybody here.
And you're not alone. And thank you for sharing your story and your truth. What you just described is the plight of so many people who are in this place. Many people who are living in their vehicles may not actually identify as homeless. Their vehicle is their home. It's a valuable asset. It's a piece of private property, and they're using their home as a way to avoid emergency shelters. Often, in many cases, many people are using their vehicles, specifically what's called the 4 Ps: pets, property, privacy, and partners. They're using their vehicles as a way to stay with their family, as a way to stay with their animal companions, as a way to hold on to their vital, important assets, and to maintain a sense of privacy, all of which are often not available in emergency shelter systems. And so I think that for more and more people, like yourself, like many of the people here, they're turning towards vehicles long term as a form of affordable housing, as a form of shelter. And many who are looking actually to get into permanent housing as well. But the reality is that in many communities there's not enough affordable housing, or really accessible housing that people can get into. I think what we need is, first off, for the community that's not living in their vehicles, this is a time to lean in. This is a time to find where the spaces exist within our community here, to be able to provide spaces for people who are living in their vehicles, to be able to get on their feet and connect with emergency services, medical services, housing services. For people who are living in their vehicles, this is the time to pull together as a community, to work with and reach out to others and help to develop those spaces and be part of those conversations. For the media, for everybody who's watching this is the time to listen. This is the time to pay attention. What we're seeing here is not unique just to Bend. It's not unique to this national forest. We're seeing more and more people who are being displaced into their vehicles across the country, and we need spaces for this growing population. And again, if they do not have a space to park their home, everything they do is illegal, and we can see that here. And then the other thing that's really important is we need waste management systems for this population, because as we see when they're up in these areas and they don't have access to a dumpster, we all accumulate household waste. It's normal, and that's what we're seeing. And if people don't have a way to dispose of it, then what we see is it accumulate. So what we need is the same things that all of our housed neighbors need for our unhoused neighbors. We need to lean in and create those spaces with the guidance and the leadership of people living in their vehicles, so those spaces meet their needs. And we need to pull together as a community and recognize that this is an affordable housing, an accessible housing issue. This is about people who do not have places in our communities, who have been displaced into their vehicles and now are being displaced out of our communities into wherever else they can find a spot. And that is not enough. We need to do better as a society.
I mean, yeah, there's a question about how they're supposed to get people out if they're not letting them back in. People are only they're not letting people go and get their stuff. So people, even if people were able to get out, their homes are likely going to get thrown away. Their stuff they need to work to make an income, to stay sheltered, to take care of themselves, are at risk, and nobody should have to live like that. And they're only gonna, if they let people in, they're only gonna let someone in one time. If you have, yeah, if you have to make 2 trips, you're out of luck. So people are going to lose their items at the hands of due to this eviction, and are gonna have to start over. That's incredibly expensive. The amount of money people have spent to get their rigs fixed up, to take time off of work, all of that money could have gone towards a down payment, could have gone towards services, could have gone towards housing, but they have to spend it on survival because the government has chosen handcuffs over housing, which we know isn't the solution. We also know that nobody was offered housing yesterday. So people are still, everyone who was sleeping outside in the forest last night or sleeping in their vehicle in the forest is now sleeping outside or sleeping in their vehicle somewhere else. Moved to other encampments. We've heard of increased sheriff activity, increased Bureau of Land Management, police telling people they have to move already, and it's been less than 12 hours since the encampment was closed. This is what happens when you close encampments but don't get people the housing that they need. It pushes people elsewhere. It pushes people away, but you can never invisibilize homelessness until you actually solve the housing crisis. Any final questions?
I have a question for Jack Hemingway. So last spring, you
not aware that it did. It was a good effort by Mayor the Mayor Pro Tem to bring together. I think she brought together 5 different